Will Hong Kong be like the next Killing Fields? I was just a teenager when I watched The Killing Fields for the first time in the mid-1980s. It was then difficult to fathom the impact of what the fall of a country would mean. The tragic story of Cambodia during the Reign of Terror by dictator Pol Pot during the 1970s. It was a good movie by any standard. I revisited the Killing Fields story again recently, and I gained some new perspectives. To a certain extent, it warns me of the worst-case scenario of what Hong Kong would look like if Beijing wants to initiate her self-inflicted nuclear option on its own people. Anyhow, the movie had 7 Oscar nominations and ended up winning 3 awards, including Best Supporting Actor, Best Cinematography, and Best Acting. The Killing Fields was based on the true story of a New York Times columnist and a local interpreter. They were covering stories of Cambodia in turmoil in the early 1970s, during the time when there was civil war and unrest in Cambodia. Not trying to spill the beans, The Killing Fields is hypnotic, as well as well-researched and based on factual history. In the April of 1975, the political situation of Cambodia deteriorated and literally crumbling extremely fast, and the country was subsequently cut off from the outside world. The 70s was an increasingly interesting time. Polaroids were used for instant pictures. Reporters and columnists were respected during the golden print media era, and photojournalists were highly regarded as well. In mid-April of 1975, the last remaining U.S. Embassy personnel in Cambodia evacuated the compound by Chinook helicopters. The New York Times columnist mentioned in the movie left the capital city of Phnom Penh before the fall in the April of 1975, leaving behind his Cambodian sidekick interpreter. In real history, the Khmer Rouge rode in the tanks after defeating the Khmer Republic and declared liberation of the capital city of Phnom Penh, some sort of a ceasefire to end the civil war. Soldiers of the Khmer Rouge was easily recognizable because they wear a red scarf. April 17, 1975 was a significant day when the Khmer Rouge entered the capital city, and civilians thought that peace finally came. Nothing could be further from the truth. Hope quickly turned into fear. Cambodians who supported the old regime, the Khmer Republic, were purged and executed. The ruler of the Khmer Rouge was Pol Pot, who was responsible for the full-scale genocide of 1.5 to 2 million Cambodians during 1975 to 1979, which constituted a quarter of the country's population. Fast forward in time. I recently had a weird dream about Hong Kong. Americans, foreigners, locals, and journalists jammed inside and outside of the U.S. Embassy compound on Garden Road. People just took over the streets, and no vehicles could go downhill because people just took over the roads with the massive assembly, and everyone was expecting imminent attacks by the Green Armed Soldiers. Hong Kong declared martial law. Those who supported democracy would be punished, tortured, or, in a best-case scenario, quickly executed to avoid further pain. Osprey helicopters were deployed for rescue mission. The Green Armed Soldiers were firing shots in the air, not trying to aim at the helicopters, but to scare off the people looking for protection. The Green Armed Soldiers went inside the U.S. Embassy gate, facing the U.S. Marines head-on. At first, nobody dared to move. Whoever first fired would lose big time. more people rushed to the US Embassy for vertical airlifting. The airport was locked down and all the sea routes were blocked, with Coast Guard vessels in sight everywhere. The Green Armed Soldiers were in the thousands, now and around Garden Road and Central. All clocked their guns, just waiting for the final order, but were outnumbered by the tens of thousands of Hong Kong people who gathered at around the Garden Road. The sky suddenly turned dark. A gigantic IMAX dome-shaped screen dropped from the sky. Snapshots and detailed accounts of what actually happened during the social movement of 2019 to the early part of 2020 reappeared on the Skynet screen. Recollection of peaceful marching demonstrators, geared up protesters in black, and undercover cops who dressed as protesters all reappeared on Skynet. But most importantly, the mysterious death of a university student and a 15-year-old girl got finally resolved. The Green Armed Soldiers were about to shoot, but suddenly all fell on their knees. All the weapons were dumped by the Green Armed Soldiers in the middle of Garden Road, signifying peace with the people. I woke up from that weird dream. I'm now back to reality. The fall of Phnom Penh symbolized the defeat of the Khmer Republic by the Khmer Rouge on the 17th of April, 1975, the ending of the Cambodian Civil War. But not quite. Genocide followed from 1975 to 1979 when nobody seemed to notice. How could this have happened? Fast forward time and look at communist Hong Kong today. The level of uncertainty of this city grows by the minute, and a lot of Hong Kong people are in retreat mode, literally. We now live in the days of darkness, just like what the Cambodians encountered during 1975 to 1979, a period in time when genocide took place that killed millions. For our case, we have lost our rights to assembly and protest, and the Hong Kong police has deliberately used the breaching of the NSL to deter Hong Kong people from coming out. Cambodia experienced the worst cases of genocide in the 20th century, and Big Brother 1, Pol Pot, got the idea of torturing and execution from Communist China Chairman Mao Zedong, who had a huge cult-like following during the time of the 20th century. In the case of Hong Kong, it has definitely fallen, both in spirit and in freedom, and we have all witnessed the police brutality, which they consistently denied. Hong Kong is not free anymore, and the city is in tears. The ruthless regime has tried anything possible to incarcerate its people. Outspoken individuals are now silenced, and most of the recent arrests have been politically motivated. Like the killing fields of modern times, we are already in the fall, and we have to find a way out before millions got buried. We cannot be forced to dig our own graves and get buried alive.